Yo, what's up guys? GQ Gaming joining me here on the last round of the FIA season. Laguna Seca, we're doing 17 laps. I can't remember specifically the tire wear and gas wear, or gas usage. But we started here on the softs. Slow cab here was gonna, basically us three, it seemed like we'd gone on the softs and we were gonna try and break away here. So the strat was either to go 8 laps on the soft and then switch over to the mediums for the remainder of the race, or you start on the mediums and then you do a longer stint, switch onto the softs at the end, possibly make some moves. So here we come into the corkscrew. We're using the once that tarmac starts getting black, that's kind of where our braking point is. And it's pretty hard to get it. It's pretty hard to get that whole braking zone, because as soon as you hit the brakes, the car gets light over the crest, and then you got to set it up for the corkscrew. So we're coming into the last corner here. We've got a decent gap, nothing too worrisome. As long as they're at least, 200ths of a second behind, you can kind of, well, I would say 300 or 400 second behind. Maybe you can take your normal racing line, any lunges that they're going to make, unless they're planning on just cleaning you out in the corner, they're not going to really make a full pass. So for right now, I'm just trying to warm the tires up, stay consistent, pull a decent lead out, except for, there's not really much I can do except for set the pace, because as soon as they get into the slipstream, they're just going to have your, they're going to be gaining at least 100th, 200ths of a second. And I always struggle with this left-hander coming up. I tend to brake right at that 2 board and just coast on in, but there's definitely a faster way. Slow cab definitely was making at least, 200ths of a second on me every single time we came onto that corner. And actually what I've noticed is going into that corkscrew more and more is I can get down into first into the Porsche and then kind of shift up into second, and it's just hitting the power band, kind of coming off the right hand into the corkscrew. So here we go, lap 3, or lap 2. We're just trying to stay consistent, keep everybody behind us. We're not taking too defensive of a line to try and, lose too much time. This turn 1, you always kind of want to keep it tight. You can run a little wide and still hold the position, but it seems that you're going to gain, a 10th or 2 just holding the tight line. We let off right at the end of that barrier, or the bumps on the edge, and then you just coast on in. Here, we're going to brake right after the shadow into second, and then kind of make sure that my left tires hit those bumps on the inside, and then power out. Sometimes I would shift up into 4th, just because you're reaching just the limit of 3rd going into that left hand. And then see the tarmac gets a little dark right there. We start braking right in, turn in, just making sure that we don't get any time penalties, but we're actually just, we lost, about 400ths of a second right there. The Beetle's actually pretty good. I looked at this replay, and by the end of the race, his tire wear wasn't too bad. Usually for the all-wheel drive cars, they roast the front end coming off the corner, but he was really good at kind of pointing and shooting with that car, which is kind of what you got to do with all-wheel drive cars, at least in this game. So one thing that they've been trying to work on too is the penalty system. It seems to be doing a little better. There's still a little bit of weirdness with contact in the braking zones, and that last Nations race on Tokyo Expressway, I mean, if you tapped anybody into the wall, you were getting at least a 1.5-second penalty or more than that. So the biggest thing here was just trying to stay consistent and keep these guys behind us, because clearly we've pulled a major gap on 4th and behind. think it's 4th, 5th, 6th is in the next group behind us, and then 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th maybe are in the group, and then there's those last 2 stragglers on the bottom right screen if you can look at that mini map. So I guess we'll try and break down a full lap here on this lap 5. We'll see if I can get a low 121 here, but it looks like we're gonna mid 21. Okay, so we're coming up over the crest here, and we're gonna spot the dark tarmac right there. Downshift into first just to get the back end to swing around a little bit. Stay in first, light on the accelerator, and then power out to the outside. Here we're gonna, the main thing is you're always paying attention to where the tarmac gets dark. Here, let off right at that bump on the left hand side. Make sure you hit the apex and then power out. You just don't want to hit the dirt on the left, get your tires dirty. Again, here right after the shadow, or right after the overpass, make sure you get your tires on that left bump here. Here we're gonna second board, lift off, a little bit of brake, and then just make sure that we don't hit that sausage on the inside, because it'll really unsettle the car and kick you onto the out. Here we're braking just before the 3 board, downshift into first. Got a little bit of pressure from behind, make sure you don't get 4 tires over that bump. Here we're going to coast into third, make sure we got that apex come out. And then right here we're going to let off right in the middle of 2 and 1 on the left hand side. And then here, right as the tarmac gets dark again, kind of right before the number 3 board, we're going to start our braking zone. Went a little wide there, lost a bit of traction, which cost us about 0.04 of a second right there. But if you can look at the bottom left where the tire models are, as I go a little wide here, we're just starting to experience a little tire wear. We're gonna pit on lap 8, so we've got 2 more laps. I'm just trying to keep it out front, keep the lap times within a second of each other at least. As soon as the softs go, you're gonna lose about 1.5 seconds, maybe a lap. But the problem is once you get onto the mediums, you gotta spend that whole, out lap just trying to get the tires warm. So we're getting a little pressure from behind. He's well within our slipstream. It looks like 3rd place has lost that slipstream, so I think we don't really have to worry about him. What I was trying to do is maybe slow us up just a tad bit so that the guy in 3rd could get in 2nd place's slipstream, and hopefully they would start battling, but it looked like 3rd just couldn't really keep the pace with us. So the one thing the Beetle accelerates on is, number 1, being in the slipstream. Any car is going to accelerate in that, but it seems to really come into its own once you're within that slipstream range. And the second thing is he was gaining time on that left hand right before the corkscrew turns. I wish I knew the name of it, but he would gain time there, and then he was really good on the braking zones coming into the corkscrew. So as you can see, he's got a little bit of a gap here, and we'll just kind of watch him going into this corner. So we're coming up the hill, and it just seems like he can be a little later on the brakes and turn in. He gains about, 100th, maybe 200ths of a second. And then we're coming into the corkscrew here, and he's going to really gain time on the braking zone. And right about now, we're just feeling the tire wear just enough to where I'm thinking, should I pit this lap? Should I go another one? So we decided to stay out. I felt like we were running a good enough pace to where even if I was going to stay out, we would come out maybe in 3rd, 4th place. And that's also taking into consideration that those people in 3rd and 4th place are on mediums right now. So they'll probably go, a lap or 2 after I come out of the pits. On fresh mediums, they'll be on worn mediums, and then they'll switch over to the softs, and I'll gain all those positions back. So lap 8, we got a little bit better tire wear on the left-hand side, so we can turn into these, you know, right-hand turns just a little bit more because the left tires aren't taking as much wear and tear. But I gotta really be careful on these left hands because the right tires on the right side are just taking a beating. And it's really because right after that corkscrew there's that long left hand, and it just seems to tear the tires up. So coming into the corkscrew, spotter braking zone, and now he's really closed up. And I'm starting to feel the pressure a little bit, but I'm just trying to stick to my lines. I know I'm going to pit this lap anyways, so it's not like he's going to overtake me into this corner. So we're going to dart off into the pits here and then switch over to mediums. The race before this, I actually got screwed with the tire glitch. Went over to mediums, put me on softs, and then I had to pit again on lap 10. Gave up the lead with about 4 seconds, and then, you know, slowly chipped away and actually passed him on the last lap. So I almost got screwed. But here it looks like it's gonna put me on the mediums. We don't have to worry about gas, no fill up or anything, and doesn't look like we gained or lost any time in this. The only problem I don't like about this pit exit is it keeps me in second, and obviously I'm gonna gain all my acceleration in first. So as soon as it comes off of autopilot, I just slam it down into first and then up into second again and try and find our groove. Because now we're on cold tires. Spaniard and Juanca 87 are on worn mediums. And we're going to see if we can at least get into this guy's slipstream. So right about here is when we're going to start feeling the slipstream effect. And we're just going to be pulling slow cap behind us with us. As we go into the corkscrew, I can tell he's just really struggling with the front tires. Can't really turn in. The acceleration isn't there. And we really gain a lot of time into these corners here, so it's obvious that he's really on worn tires. As I think about going on the inside, and then he defends, really weirdly enough, knowing that I'm clearly faster than him. And slow cap just kind of was caught out there. He didn't really know what to do. So right here we're going to fake like we're going to the outside again, and then just switch back up into the inside, making sure we hit the braking zone right there. Easy pass, and then, you know, I felt that was a good place to pass because now I've got him in between me and slow cap, which is kind of a buffer. It's going to give me at least, you know, 600, 700ths of a second gap as we go almost off the dirt there. So coming into this left-hander, I believe slow cap is going to make this move. I think, you know, Juanca obviously knows we're quicker than him and we're on the fresher tires, so he kind of lets him by. But, you know, obviously, as you can see by the gap, gave me just enough breathing room to where now I'm comfortable. We got 7 more laps to go. Well, 6.5 basically. So the main goal was just to stay consistent, but we'll see in a couple laps here he actually gains a decent amount of time on me. And that Beetle is really good in the braking zones as he goes, oh, he almost bends it, he goes a little wide, gets a boatload of oversteer. But he's still in the slipstream, so he's probably not losing that much time. But again, the Beetle just seems to be really stable, really good on the braking zones. He can brake a little bit later, send it in a little bit more, and like I said, by the end of the race, his tire wear wasn't actually too bad. It almost was better than mine, and I'm in the Porsche. Porsche is notoriously known for having good tire wear and decent gas usage. So, you know, obviously as the car gets lighter, it's going to be easier on the tires. So right now we're probably around half tank, a little bit lower than that. I had my brake bias at -2, I believe, in the front. And, you know, as I'm on controller, it just seems to settle the car a little bit more into the braking zones. But the one thing I did have to watch out for was braking, you know, trail braking into the apex. Because the bias was so up front, it would almost swing the back end around. And if I'm trail braking with the front bias, it's just going to eat the front tires up. So the biggest thing is just trying to find a brake bias that, number one, feels comfortable, but number two, that is going to help you manage the tires. Because the biggest thing I've noticed, especially with the controller, is tire wear. People with wheels seem to say you can turn in a little better on the turns with the controller, but I also seem to think that you can manage the tire wear just a little bit better with the wheel. You can be a little bit smoother on the turn in, and then mid-corner acceleration, obviously you can just hold the steering wheel at an angle and it's going to keep turning that way, whereas with the controller, as soon as you start getting on the gas, you kind of have to adjust for it. As we come into the braking zone, he's on our tail now. So I can tell really the only place that he's going to have a chance on us is coming out of this corner if we miss this apex and we kind of muff this last corner up, or in the corkscrew, because almost every time that he's gotten right up to my rear bumper, it's into the corkscrew. I feel like I could work on my braking zone a little bit into the corkscrew, but at the same time, I've gone wide so many times. I've gotten penalties going over that inside curb so many times that I was figuring if I let him by, I could probably gain a little bit and maybe pass him into that last left-hander before the back straight, or not back straight, front straight. But I also figured, you know, I'm not going to fight too much because we still got that guy in third lingering. If you look at the top right screen, he's just coming out of that corner right now. So he's not too far behind, but he's far enough behind to where he's well out of the slipstream. And because of that, he's probably losing, I don't know, 0.04 of a second each lap to us. So now we've got 4 laps left, and now the pressure is kind of on, because I can tell he's going to want to start making moves. I don't want to defend too much, but at the same time, you know, if I don't defend and I give him enough time to pull a gap, there might not be a chance for me to retaliate. Beetle didn't have enough straight line speed to get me down into this turn 1. So I know I could always just take my normal racing line, braking right at that dark tarmac, into first, coast it around, well, not really coast it, but just light on the gas, and then power to the outside again. These corners are really hard to get right, but if you get them right, it makes all the difference in the world. You just got to make sure you don't hit that sausage on the inside or hit that dirt on the outside right there, because it'll spin you around. Alright, so 3 laps left, coming up the hill. And I'm pretty surprised I got that left-hand turn right there good each lap, because I really struggled with that corner, and if anybody's got any tips or anything like that for taking that corner or the braking zones, please let me know. But now I feel like there's just a bit of sense of urgency from slow cap. As we're coming into this right hand, hit the apex, power to the outside, and so now we're almost on the last corner, hug the apex, and then power out. Alright, so we got 2 laps left, decent tire wear, not too bad, but we've managed it enough to where we still got enough left in the tank. Seemed like he cooked it into that first left hand just a little bit too much, and it brought him out just wide enough to where I got a decent amount of space. So we're going to stay on him for this lap. really good into that corner. As you can see, he gains just a little bit of time, and he's well into our slipstream where he gains more time up the hill, and then he just sends it up the inside. I didn't really expect him to be there, but, you know, fair play. Put my hazards on, kind of just to say, you know what, dude, I didn't mean to cut your nose off, but at the same time, I feel like he was just far enough back to where that move wasn't going to work, unless I did concede that space, but at the same time, I didn't expect him to be there, so I wasn't planning on backing out of that corkscrew commitment at all. But now I know he's there, and he's in my head a little bit, so just trying to stay calm, take a few deep breaths onto that straight, and then focus to put a good lap in right here, because I know he's trying to make things happen. We've only got 2 laps left, and I know he gains on me on that sector 2 basically. So I would consider this corner all the way almost to the corkscrew is like sector 2-ish. So we come into this left hand, he gains on us again, gets a good exit out of that corner, and he's on our bumper. So I'm going to go defensive here, and he's actually going to go on the inside and zoom right past us. I thought I cleared him enough to where we weren't going to make contact. We make a little contact. I felt it was fair, didn't really slam him out wide or anything. It just seemed like I had space, and it either glitched or something. But really, that was like his only... That was his move. That was his chance. I defended it enough to where I set him offline going into that corkscrew, and I knew that I was already braking late, so there was no way he was gonna brake later than I was and still make that corkscrew. Luckily, no penalties. Nothing too major. Now we're about a lap's worth of fuel. So we've managed to fuel just enough to where we can finish, and the car's extremely light right now. But I've basically just gapped him enough to where I can focus basically on just hitting my marks. Last time going to this left hand, make sure we don't go too wide. Power up the hill, and obviously he's too far behind to make any moves now. So we're just trying to stay calm, hit our marks. Coming into the last corner here. Gets another low to oversteer coming out of that corner, and it looks like we've just taken the dub, boys. First real FIA win. Had door number 11. Qualified really well. Ran a low 120. In practice sessions, I could do a mid 19, so a 120 wasn't too good, but it was good enough for pole. And there you go. Thank you guys for joining. GQ Gaming, boys.